Hello, I'm Denise.
And I'm Ali.
And together we are DNA. Today we are going to talk about
breath.
Breath. Something we all do every day. I'm expecting. Hopefully, automatically. So why bring it up and why bring it up now? I think this has changed significantly since we started to do breath work, to be quite honest. At the beginning it was something that was really unusual and nobody'd heard of it, and now I think it's everywhere, but maybe that's just in my circle.
I mean, conscious breathing. Breathing as a wellbeing technique.
Yes.
Was relatively new when we were starting training in it, rather than just breathing. Breathing's been going for a long time.
Yes, and automatically as well, and across loads of different areas. We have yoga breath, you have singing breath, and all of that kind of thing. And I came across it when I was looking for something. I had a question.
She has questions.
One of these question quests. What is the psychological component of breath? Because I was doing psychological components of bodywork, psychological components of trauma work, psychological components of singing. I can't sing without breath. You can't actually live very long without it. So what was the psychological component of breath? And conscious breathing, as we said, was just in its infancy in Scotland, and I was blown away by it, because going in through thinking consciously about breath is like thinking about singing consciously in a way. It's a way in through the body that the phrase I coined for something or other, I think it was my psychotherapy master's, was an impasse bypass. It bypasses, like bodywork bypasses our defences and things like that. So actually it needs to be done incredibly carefully, not gung-ho, not thinking, it's a great technique. It is a great technique. However, when we start to work on a physical level, thinking psychologically, a lot can happen really quickly, in exactly the same way, to be honest, as we've been working for years with the singing, with the voice, with the sound. So, Ali, what about breath?
I love when you do that. What about the breath?
What about it?
I mean, there are loads of different techniques, exercises, ways to utilise your breath to get a potential outcome. Mm-hmm. So there's using breath to calm the system. There are breath techniques that actually invigorate the system. There is survival, there's getting out of survival, there's thrival breath. There is breathing for in collaboration with cold water therapy. My first teaching around breath work was in relation with my singing. So how to get the most out of my breath. It's kind of potentially a kind of usy way of using the breath. It's like, how can I breathe in a way that I can get the best voice quality, production? How can I breathe that I can sing for longer? All of these things.
Create and sustain a sound. You should sing on the exhale. Mm-hmm. Balancing exhale and inhale is also a thing. The more balanced we make that, the more balanced our lives can be in some ways. It transforms what happens outside when we start to look at our systems from the inside.
Yeah.
I think with singers we have a tendency to think we need we need more air than we actually do. That can set up all sorts of different and difficult problems. Mm-hmm. And quite some time ago, I ran out of breath. I just ran out of breath. oh, that was me, apologies. I ran out of breath. And spent a week in a hospital on an oxygen mask, regaining balance in my breath, and that became that was way before I was asking what's the psychological component of breath. At that time, my peak flow, they were like, you'll never have a decent peak flow again. And what I did at that time was spend 3 months extending the exhale, singing lots of classical stuff to myself, bringing the focus and composure back to my breath, having lost it and felt quite breathless and like I didn't have enough. Actually, a lot of the times when you don't have enough, you're actually over-breathing. That's another thing that's possible. So noticing at that point that singing had a huge positive benefit to my own able to breathe with ease and autonomically again, as opposed to very consciously in a more worried kind of a way. But the question when we started this particular conscious breath journey was, what is the psychological component? And of course there are many.
I think the way we breathe gives a lot of information. So how we inhale, exhale, pause, how our body's involved in the breath,
what muscles we use to control.
I was going to say, I was trying to work out a different word for control, because control can have connotations that aren't always meant. So we can talk about controlling, like harnessing our breath, but actually sometimes when we're talking about control, it's just like, how do we hold the breath in our body? How do we shape how we breathe? So is it muscle heavy, or is it in the most free-flowing natural way, which is also a muscle, but it's the diaphragm, which is a it's not one that you can control. It's an autonomic movement in the body, the diaphragm. So the control that we can put in is all the other muscles in our system. And sometimes if we are controlling our breath, we are utilising secondary muscles to either hold the breath in or hold the breath out, or I don't know, like if you've ever thought about your breath very much, there are times where, for me, I become aware that I'm holding my breath at the smallest place it can be and still function. Mm-hmm. Sometimes full open breathing releases things that maybe I don't want to let out in that moment. So
time to clamp your teeth shut.
Yeah.
Grit your teeth. I mean, that's a
brace
phrase,
the
right?
rib cage and hold it all in, or hold it all out, or both.
Yes, indeed. It can be all of that.
Yeah.
And of course it is also what our existence is based on. When we stop breathing, we don't live for very long after that. And so some of the difficulties we can get into are on an existence level. And the more that we looked into it, the more the different techniques came in, and we studied extensively, the more we could embrace more being alive through the breathing techniques, and also we could help people who were struggling to decide to stay alive on some level. And one of the interesting things that I think came up pretty early was what happened in birth stories, what happened when people took their first breath, and the different kinds of beliefs that were made actually at that point, or experiences that happened at that point that shaped people's existence and the way that they used and embodied their systems with their breath or not. There's times we hold our breath. It's a natural thing to do. There's times we need it. It's part of a sphincter system like voice. I love the word sphincter. It always makes me giggle.
Don't ask me to spell it. I like to hear it.
And so when you're moving a table, for example, we close the system down in order, voice and breath, in order to give us more purchase. The trick is letting it go again. Letting it go again, because if we don't, and then we just go and then we stay like that, then it can have a big impact on how our systems work with ease and how our minds and flow, our embodied system works with ease or not.
I think there's, going back to what you were saying about your experience with being in hospital, and I'm not sure if you did it purposefully or if it was a happy accident that you then went and focused on the exhale rather than the inhale, because I think we put a lot of emphasis on breathing in, and actually a lot of the natural rhythm of a breath is formed by the exhale.
I think at that time I didn't have that awareness. However, I knew singing made me feel better. And since they were saying you'll never blow out, the peak flow is about your puff. You'll never have that amount of puff again. I knew I needed to work the diaphragm from a singing point of view, and I totally knew that singing, using my voice, was a healing activity for me. So, and I knew I could do long phrases, because that was one of the things that I knew I could do. I could sing my Italian arias and etc. So I went back to basics. I went back to learn how to breathe again from my skill set that I already had within me. Singing's a wonderful thing. It stood me in good stead many times.
Singing on some other video somewhere, I think I called it beautiful breathing.
You did, yeah.
It's a beautiful exhale is the singing.
It's the bel canto technique. So yes. So then I went on a wee private quest. I was doing a lot of conscious breath work towards the end of the PhD. I didn't include it much in the PhD because it was already stuffed full. There was already 2 volumes where I actually needed there to be 1. However, I was doing it on a personal level and benefiting from that and helping myself over the line of finishing the studying work. After the PhD finished, I started doing that, training hard on that to get that integrated into what we were doing with the Psyche approach, the soul approach to singing and to life. And sometimes people don't have words. Working as a psychotherapist as I was at that time, being able to map people's breath, being able to see a visual of where they were at in their systems with that. I could offer an extra thread that we were gathering. It gave me lots of information when I was working with people, when we were analysing the communication, the transactions on a physical level, and it also helped when people had, on a general level, people had trauma in their systems to let go of the stuff that doesn't have words, to rebalance where the words run out, and there's just cognitive thinking is a great thing, and some of the stuff that's traumatizing in our systems is beyond vocalization or before vocalization. Therefore, we can look at the breath, and that was a great tool, especially for trauma work, for sure. It was a great tool to be able to add in as I went through my training and up to being a supervisor, which you also did. Do you want to share some of your journey thoughts? Don't want to put you on the spot. I do that a lot. And over to you.
I mean, the one thing I enjoyed about my conscious breathing training is the amount of the balance of personal work in order to be able to learn the technique to do with others. It's great to learn techniques, and I truly believe that we learn the most deeply with a felt experience of things. So doing a lot of breath work also it enlivened my system, which is a nice place to learn from as well. And was very intense. It was a very intense period of time, quite exciting, and went to lots of different places in the world and met a lot of people. I actually went and did a course where, being of the unfortunate position where, like, you'd believe most folk will be able to speak at least a bit of English, I went somewhere where no one spoke English really at all, and spent a lot of time actually communicating without having language. And breath's quite a nice leveler of we're all experiencing this together.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, living in Scotland and in the UK, I'm sure there are many people with many more languages up their sleeve than we tend to. The great leveler is we all breathe, and that was like a big step up from everybody I worked with, sung or was in a therapeutic line. We all breathe, so it doesn't matter all the other differences in the world. We all share this one thing. We all breathe, and it opened up a whole new layer of meeting people that we wouldn't again have met if we hadn't been doing this kind of work. Again, voice, singing opens doors to different worlds, and we all have that in common. And what a great place to start with our communication. It's like we all breathe, we all have a breath pattern, we all have experienced a birth. What was that like? We all have experienced holding our breath at some point, or letting our breath go and more than we expected to come out. So it was just such a unifier of bringing people together. You know, we can all have completely different experiences of life. We can all have completely different experiences of our physical systems. However, we all have an experience of, most people have an experience of their breath, of actually breathing in and breathing out. Okay, at some time I had to have a bit of help with that, but then you get through and on to the next thing. So there was no end to the possibilities at that time with breathwork, because bringing that into the singing, which we did early doors because I'm me, and finishing the PhD, we really started building group breath sessions, and there's nothing like working in a group. Yes, great online, and I've done it, and we've done it, and we continue to do it. And when we had an event recently here, all the feedback is it's lovely to be in a group, breathing and being with people, connection in that way. We're great believers in group process, for sure. There's so much power in a group. There's so much power in your breath. There's so much power in your voice. These are powerful tools. That's why we love them, because we enjoy the potency of the different modalities that we've woven together into this Psyche soul approach, and I agree with you. It's intensive, and as it should be on training, because it doesn't take long for people. When, again, as I've said, as an intervention with the breath, you're in bypassed Dr. Borland 2000 and about 9, 10, 11 for impasse bypass. We're great on references. I believe in referencing who we learn from, and I don't mind if it's me. Just so actually doing a lot of work on yourself, understanding how to work with people helps you be able to have potent and good sessions for people. It's the same with the psychotherapy world. You do an intense load of training, and as a psych practitioner, you and another psych practitioner did a lot of training and a lot of being with people and working, because we're working with souls. It's the psych approach, is the soul approach. You're working with souls, that means all of it. And working with these dynamic, cathartic tools, it's wonderful. And you can also get in over your head if you haven't done your own work and if you haven't worked with other people. So bringing it into being with singing, I think this conscious breath in was a really important sigh of relief. It's a really important point to bring into the psych approach, I think, and into our work.
Absolutely, and it fits in, and we've done our own research of various different ways of breathing, thinking of breathing, the theories, and also how it relates to our psychological foundation of the work that we do. And we did some really, we did some really incredible things, you know. We got a hot tub, we breathed in warm water, we're not cold water breathers. We did swimming pools, and it wasn't just us. This was also part of different trainings that we did. What's the impact on that? It's all different. So it's quite a big jump, I have to be honest, from being a psychotherapist or a singer out front, I'm going to yodel, to sitting in my swimming suit, breathing people in water. It really was quite a shift in... It came from us having a really strong idea of what the culture was with us and what leadership, supervision, all of that we were taking at that time, because it you know, to build this holistic approach, we jumped quite directly at times into other worlds. You go for a psychotherapy session, nobody's sitting in the swimsuit to greet you, and that's correct. and that's correct. And it's, you know, it was exciting, and it was wow, okay. And I felt passionately about getting signed off to be able to and do more work, to be able to work with people hands on in that way. And we really worked on our ethics and our guidelines around this time, and continue to do so. It's an ever evolving part of our job. We have to keep supervised and supervising. Yes. It's important.
Yeah, and that's how we make the whole approach. That's why we have a sanctuary. That's why we can now invite people to stay over, etc., etc. And to be able to do that on a deep, deep level.
Yeah.
Work with people on a deep level.
And breath is still free. I mean, you may pay to go and do a guided breath session, but it's something that we have in us that we can utilise and connect with to help ground us, calm us, process things, feel more ...
And explore part of our own systems. It's your breath, it's your voice. And it took us to some amazing places, as you see, abroad. We worked at Glasgow. We did. Really enjoyed Glasgow. We had a yurt in Glasgow doing breath work for some time. Again, just new and different people, and met some really great people down there.
And there is no barrier when it comes to breath. So take words out of the equation, and there is something that can be quite magical in someone breathing in front of you or breathing with. Words, you've said many times you loved words and language, and words are so important in transactional analysis. How we communicate is such a core part of what we do.
It is.
To actually take all of that out sometimes and go, okay, breathe. What does the breath bring? What information has it got? What can we see, feel? What can we learn from breathing in and breathing out?
Or can we do an intervention that is breath, stop the words, go to an intervention which is breath, and go through a process with the breath alone that takes us, transforms us, moves us through the process that we're in to somewhere else without any words alone. And my experience of you as a worker, as a psych practitioner, is very embodied, very grounded, and I think this work added into your toolkit of the other things that you do is really powerful. It's really powerful. You're very gentle and can hold a grounded space, which I have appreciated more than once.
We bring our own parts to each experience.
Yes, we do.
One of the things that I love about breathwork and how it can be integrated into the work we do is with babies. So you may have heard it said before, but birth, being born, can be classed as like our first or earliest trauma. It's, even if you don't hold that as being a truth, it is a massive change for a baby to go from being in one very comfortable, warm, hopefully place to out in the world, which is quite harsh and bright and colder and noisier. So we hope that births are as gentle and free as they can be, but in reality, some people, some babies, some mothers have hugely traumatic experiences, and babies don't have any language or the cognitive capacity yet to make sense of what has happened. And we don't want to make sense for them. We don't want to we don't want to interpret, we don't want to create a story, a dialogue, a narrative for this baby. We just might want to offer an experience of, could the breath be any more open, more easy, more free? I'm hugely lucky that I got to do some breath work with my beautiful little niece when she was a teeny tiny baby, and watching with just tiny little intention and a little touch a shift in a breath pattern is like, it was my niece, so it was quite emotional, but it is actually emotional. It's a beautiful thing to without having to cognitively process through anything, just hold a space to allow a little more pulse of a breath. I love that. I'm quite a somatic person, so I quite like no words sometimes.
Yeah. That was kind of what I was getting at. Yeah. You're right. You are a somatic person and have really good instincts and intuitions, and enjoy working with no words as well. Very articulate. Right.
With no words.
You like to work with no words as well. And I think you did quite a lot of baby stuff around that kind of time. You were doing other kinds of bodywork at the time as well, and it all fitted and came together at that time for you. And there's some videos somewhere with you actually doing exactly that. Breath,
YouTube.
body breathing on YouTube, yeah. And of course, not to miss out on the fact that during the home album, guess what? EP1, da 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 da, last song on the first EP, is called Breathe. And it's as an act of defiance. It's like, no, I'm going to breathe on. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to keel over, which is disappear, not be fade. I'm going to keep breathing. Sometimes it's, all we can do is take the next breath. Don't bother thinking about the next day. Don't bother thinking about the next hour or the next minute. Sometimes we have to think about what the next breath is. Can we just keep breathing in and out in any shape or form through some of the toughest of times? And I think that that's what that song's about. It's about breathing on, and it also works very beautifully. Kelsey, please, who would have thought it for a breath session?
Hooray!
Hooray! Huzzah!
Multitasking. We like to create music that we can breathe to.
We can breathe to. Yes, we've done some before, right enough. But I think all of the breath work is an absolutely core of breath in and out. It's core for everybody, and absolutely core for part of our learning quest. And as you say, exciting and beautiful times. And again, I say this word honour and privilege enough, but when people share their breath, when people open their mouths and out comes their truths, it's very precious. And to be in a position to hold that, and groups that we love because they're so powerful, to be able to hold that has been I've said very special already, so it's not the right thing to say very special again. It's been breath opening as well as eye opening, as well as soul opening.
And I mean, we have to say thank you for being the original guinea pig, because you go and do things that no one else thinks is a thing to do, and then Denise comes back all shiny and like, ooh, feeling her oats, and then of course it's like, oh well,
like, what's she doing?
I must be alright, let's try that.
I'm laughing because there's so many other courses that we didn't integrate that I didn't come back with a shiny face.
Sometimes being a guinea pig does not always mean you come out with a good tool to bring forth. No, sometimes it's just like, I tried that, and that was a kind and friendly no. Not for me. This isn't for bringing in. And so thank you for that. You're welcome. And it wouldn't be me if I wasn't going off and, questioning why and what. But that was the question. My wife's a researcher.
Before I was even researching, I was doing it. I just like to know the answers, and I always have a question. Why? And yeah, there's been some humdingers. Holy moly.
That can be for another podcast.
I think that's probably...
If you feel like it.
I think it's probably better left.
Fair enough. No naming and shaming here. No. Just celebrating and honouring.
Correct. And for all the ones that didn't work out, the ones that did, I'm thankful for. And of course, part of our process is to glean the bits that are fit with the rest of the gathered threads, the bits of the approach, and that often meant leaving a situation that had a different ethical or a different structure that worked for it, and what are we doing that keeps us aligned with all the other parts. I kind of feel I want to show you my jumper now because it's got little colours all up my spine. But things that keep us in alignment, and that meant letting go of some bits, adding in some bits, tweaking so that it not so that it fitted, but actually so that it felt aligned with what we're doing.
Course.
So that goes through all of the things that we've done, and I personally am grateful for the humdingers and for the ones that worked. And there's that moment where you go, and it's time for us, if in integrity, to stay with ourselves and Psyche, bringing the other threads into that modality of each of the things that we've done, which is always griefy and absolutely no doubt. It feels at these times it's like we have to now.
It's time.
It's time. Yeah.
When you know, you know.
Exactly that. Yeah.
So, whatever you take from this podcast today,
Keep breathing.
keep breathing.
Breathe on.
Breathe in, breathe out,
Nose, mouth.
repeat. See
Just
how it feels.
Explore.
Be aware when you might be holding your breath. If you're having a hard time, a hard moment, a hard second, just check if you could breathe in and out and see what happens. It's an experiment. Shoot, move your hair a little so you can see the top. There we go. Colourful alignment.
Breathe into the spaces, guys.
And do connect with us. If
Yes.
you've got any questions,
Yes.
if you're intrigued, interested, or feeling like a debate, get in touch. You can connect with us on Facebook, Noble House Scott. Please do subscribe to our YouTube, Noble House
matters.
Scott.
Noble House Scott. It matters. And if you're going in through one of the streams, please download. It makes a difference.
And
Breathe on,
breathe on.
which is another little quote.
It's
Another
a
song
preview.
quote. It's a preview. Breathe on, people. And for all of the people that brought stuff in, and for you going off around the world half the time, and more than once on your own to somewhere, as you say, you didn't even speak the language, to help get more information in. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for being guinea pig number 1.
And guinea pig number 2. Hope to see you again another time soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.